each time I just observed myself, observed what I felt inside of my body, and I observed the peace and the happiness that came about what I experienced, and that was something that I just could not cover up anymore.
Hi, and welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm Dawn Davis, and this is episode 86. If you'd like more information about the podcast, it's all at the website desertladydiaries.com, and I invite you to engage with the guests, with other listeners, or me on social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Desert Lady Diaries, or on Twitter at Desert Lady Diary. A lover of many disciplines of dance, Petra Cimbalova was born in the Czech Republic, moving from Colorado to Joshua Tree just last year, leaving the world of corporate finance behind for more balance in her life. She is a Reiki practitioner, jewelry designer, and leader of mystical feminine dance, fresh off a trip to Thailand where she completed a 250-hour course in mystical dance. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, as we always start, what was your first experience with any kind of desert?
Any kind of desert. So, well, before I moved to Joshua Tree, I was living in Colorado for maybe about 18 and 19 years. And Colorado is its own desert, but I feel like the real experience I got from being in the desert was actually moving to Joshua Tree. And so my first experience, I came here for the first time for New Year's, the end of 2017. I went to Gina Navarro's show.
Oh.
It was right here at the Art Center. And I came here to be with Ryan, so we had our New Year's together. And so that was my introduction to Joshua Tree through Gina Navarro's show.
What a great way to be welcomed in.
Right. It was really great, and a lot of people that I know as friends were there. And the next day, we went to the park, the national park. And so that was an experience on its own.
Right.
I loved it. We didn't camp. We just stayed there whole day and explored, rocks and the life. And it was in January, so there were not too many flowers, but so much life. It was just a really magical place, a magical day for me to spend after the New Year's. And it was a really lovely way of welcoming the new year. And truly it was a big year of changes, so it started in Joshua Tree.
So were you still working in the corporate finance during that period of time when you visited for New Year's?
I was, yes.
Oh, okay. So how many months after that was it that you went and said, I am out of here?
Yes, I worked in finance for 11 years, and I think that for maybe about the last 8 years, I gradually noticed the unhappiness and the stress in my body and how it affected me overall and how it affected my health. So I was sort of ready already to get out of Denver and out of Colorado. And I think that when I came here, it was really to see Joshua Tree. It was really to see if I could live here. And so 4 months after that, in April 23rd.
Oh, almost
we are
to the
celebrating
day.
1 year.
Congratulations. Yes. What a way to celebrate.
April 23rd last year, yes. I quit corporate America. And in June after that, I moved to Joshua Tree.
So let's back up to even a little bit before that. How did you come to be in Colorado, in Denver?
I was born in the Czech Republic, in Europe. Used to be Czechoslovakia a long time ago. Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, used to be a socialist country for many years. And so growing up, I experienced the bleak existence of where it was at that time. It's changed over the years. It's not like that anymore. And as a child, maybe I was like 9 years old, I always cut out pictures of exotic places. I cut out islands and big cities and just different places. And I had this little book. All the cutouts were in the book. So I had the book of exotic places. So I think I always knew I wanted to leave in a way.
Almost like a vision book. Yeah.
Yes, although I didn't know where to go. And that was the start. So I was 9 years old. At that time, I had older cousins, and my cousins emigrated to Germany. So they escaped the regime. And then after the socialism ended, that was in 89, they came back. And when they came back, I was so interested in their story. And I remember I said, wow, one day I'm going to leave this country too. So I did. Everything just led me to United States.
How old were you when you left?
I just turned 19, actually.
Okay.
I just finished school till 18 and turned 19 and left to United States.
So when you came over, what was your point of entry?
I flew to New York. So I flew from Prague to Newark Airport in New York.
I used to work there a long time ago.
I didn't fly to Denver. I went to Grand Junction in Colorado. And my first experience was I lived in a church.
Really?
Yes. I lived with a friend who was taking care of a church. And you know how churches have that some flats or apartment upstairs for the person who is every day taking care of the church.
Right.
So he had a little apartment and I stayed there, and I got to sleep on the awning above the church.
Oh my goodness.
So the only rule was that I had to be quiet during Sunday Mass if I was there. So nobody would know I'm up there. Thanks for asking that question. I forgot.
Oh, so interesting. So back to the New Year's Eve of 2017, and then 4 months later you decide you're leaving finance. Was it at that moment that you knew you were actually going to move here, or did you just know that you just wanted to leave the corporate world?
At that time, when I was leaving finance in April last year, I already knew I was going to move to Joshua Tree. But if I go back a little bit to September of 2017, before I came to Joshua Tree, I really didn't have a plan to leave. And that's why for 8 years I never really left finance, because I didn't have the plan. And I had obligation, I had a mortgage, I had all of these things that I needed to take care of. So my mind didn't really know how to.
Isn't that funny that we just kind of get caught up in these situations and we let so much time go by before we actually realize that we have the power to change our situation?
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
And it really took toll on my body, because the longer I stayed, I developed digestive issues. I had lower back pains that resulted in not being able to walk.
Oh my goodness.
At times. And I knew I had to make a change, and I knew it was coming from the stress I had from this job. And so in September of 2017, I decided that within a year, I would quit the job, even if I didn't have a plan. No matter what, even if I had to go back to Czech Republic, I was going to quit. And I felt something shift in my body. It was like a click. And after that, throughout that year leading to me moving to Joshua Tree, the plan just came about.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah. And so I learned about Joshua Tree because I met my partner Ryan at that time, and I told him I wanted to leave corporate job and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so it was him who suggested, and he, for the last 5 years, he's been coming back and forth to Joshua Tree, so he already had been here by that time. So he was the one who suggested, well, why don't you come out here, see if you like it. If you don't, then at least you tried, but you just may love it. That's how the idea to come to Joshua Tree came about.
How long from the moment you then came and decided you would definitely come, how long between that and when you finally did? And kind of what was your process and all that? Because obviously you had to sell a house and all that stuff.
Yeah. So when I came after the New Year's, from New Year's, I stayed for 1 week and I already felt it. I felt the magic of this place and I knew it, but my mind couldn't grasp it. I kept going back and forth, like, can I really live here? Or will I miss the city? Because at that time I lived in Denver. So then I started coming here every month thereafter for like a weekend, 3 days or so. And each time I just observed myself, observed what I felt inside of my body. And I observed the peace and the happiness that came about, you know, what I experienced. And that was something that I just could not cover up anymore. So the contrast between the two places, and it's really not the place, it's between where I am, was so vast that I just had to listen. So probably by like the third time, maybe March, I really decided, okay, I know I'm moving, but I'm really moving. Like I am doing this.
Right.
And so then I quit my job in April. I put my house on the market. That was another whole story. I didn't really know if I was going to keep the house and rent it out, but I decided that I just wanted to sell it. So number one, I would have some money to carry me over. And number two, I really didn't want any stress, because I had so much of the stress before. So I ended up selling it. I was hoping that it would sell quite quickly because I needed to get here. And everything just went so well. And the home sold within 30 days. So it sold in May.
That's amazing.
The closing was beginning of June, and right after I got into my car and drove here. So I sold the home and I sold everything from the home. All my stuff, all the furniture that I've kept. The only things that I decided to keep were the things that gave me joy. My skis, I love to ski, crafts.
Speaking of, let's talk about your crafts. You do some jewelry, right?
Yes.
How did you start creating jewelry?
Yes, so that was interesting because I got here and I'm like, okay, now I'm here. All this happiness is here and then it settled in. What am I going to do? So I went for about 2 months after I came here. I didn't really do much. I had to take the time to really deprogram from the mindset I had in the corporate job. And I went through different things, different feelings. You know, I was a little depressed for a moment and felt isolated as well for a moment. And then I sat down. It was actually Ryan. Ryan was the one who set up my little workspace. He put a table up, he put my box there, and he's like, it's right here for you. And I walked past that table for days. I couldn't get myself to do anything. And then finally I'm like opening the box and finding my tools. And how did I start making jewelry? I always made jewelry for myself. And I just know that I really enjoy the time. I really love the creativity process of what it goes when I am making the jewelry, what I'm putting into it. And so I decided to make more of it. That was my time to pass time. It was my creative process to pass time, and that's how I started.
And now you have it for sale too. We'll put the web link up in the blog post so that people can take a look at it. Is it gemstones? Is it beads? Is it necklaces and bracelets and earrings or just specialty?
I really make anything that comes to heart. Right now I've made necklaces. I love earrings, so I do make earrings as well. I don't have many bracelets. I don't really wear too many bracelets. So I don't make them. But yeah, earrings, I do have some sets for the jewelry. And what I use is I really love natural elements. So I do use mainly hemp. Hemp cord. I do have natural hemp, but I also use dyed, so like brownish and black dyed hemp. I use gems, I use beads, and I use natural elements that I find in the desert. Mainly choya. Everybody loves choya, I feel like.
Got mine over there.
Yeah.
In my vase.
Yes. Yeah, so even I caught on to the magic of choya. And it speaks to me very, very highly.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah.
So you just came back from this amazing, was it 250 hours of training in Thailand?
Yes.
Talk about how you found that and what was the impetus to just go and do this?
Okay, yes. That just didn't happen overnight. That was a dream that I've had and held for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Before I knew I was going to leave finance, I knew I needed a change. I needed something. So I also did a yoga teacher training, 200 hours back in 2014, and then I hurt my back. So when I was deciding to leave corporate world, well, before I decided to leave it, when I was thinking about the change, I was thinking maybe I need to go on a trip outside of the country. I wanted the experience of getting out of complacency in life. And I wanted to feel how I felt when I came to United States.
Yeah.
It's kind of the pioneer spirit in a way.
Right. All these possibilities before me. Yeah.
Yes. And so at my job, the job was actually it was stressful, but it was also lovely. I had a lot of time off. We had like 30 days paid time off. It was really lovely. And I had the time to go. I presented my idea to, at the time, my boss and his boss. And unfortunately, it didn't work well. I didn't end up going for the reasons of business continuity. And it was a decision that I had to make not to go because of the demands of the job I had. So I didn't end up going, but...
Which is interesting when you think about it. You have a demanding job, but we're not going to let you take some time off to, like, get rejuvenated.
Yeah. But
anyway.
And I've been there, by that time I've been there for 10 years.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes, it was exactly what I needed, because that was probably one of the last things that propelled me to leave. That's how it started. And this course is a course that happens once per year. So I knew I could go this year. So I went. What I didn't know that it was the last course that my teacher Monica had made of this format. She's still making courses and she'll still continue teaching, but it was the last course of the format, and I decided to go, and it was just perfect.
So you were there for how many weeks?
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
How long was the flight?
It was long. Oh my goodness, it was long. So the flight itself, I flew from LA to China and then China to Bangkok. I stayed in Bangkok for like a day because that whole trip was maybe about 20 hours.
Wow.
And then I got on the bus and I traveled on the bus for 8 hours down south. And then I got on the ferry and I traveled for 4 hours to this island called Koh Phangan, or some people call it Koh Phangan, Thailand.
What an adventure.
Yeah. It was long, but it was one of those sacred journeys, perhaps, that some people take.
Like a bit of a quest.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you got there, what were your days like, and how many people were in the class with you?
We had about maybe 18 people. I don't know right now the number. 18, 20 people. Mm-hmm. It was a very transformational experience, very intense. I just got there. We danced for 6 hours per day.
Wow.
So the first 3 days, I was like, well, I am a little bit sore. Yeah. You know? I wasn't used to dancing that much. And The chorus really was lovely. It's dancing, but it's really dancing through embodied movement.
Okay.
So there is a dancing where you just like let go and kind of leave the body and just like not being present with the movement. And then there is the movement where you are really present with the movement and staying in the body. And so that is the type of a course that I went to, and that's also what I'm teaching now.
When someone takes this course, when you go into it, what is the outcome that you are anticipating? Or not that you have an attachment to it, but what is the goal once once you've been in the classes and completed the classes? What is the goal? I guess it's the best word I can come up with. What was something that you went into it thinking, I want to see how I come out the other side once I do this? Or was it with the intent of learning how to do the technique to bring it back and share it with other people?
Okay, I had no expectations when I went. I just knew that it was a course that focused on dance. It was with other women. It had ceremony and sacred ritual, and so that was enough for me to decide to go. No expectations. Again, what I knew is that I wanted to learn it enough to share it with other women. That's what I went there for. I really went for an inner journey so I can experience it, so I can then, I don't really teach, I share. So sharing with other women, I feel like everybody is my teacher. I'm a student and never-ending student, so
all of us
I'm really sharing it with everybody else. Yeah.
And talk about the class that you do here in town now, which is over at Instant Karma on, is it Mondays?
Mondays at 6, yeah. Yeah, so it's a class, it's from 6 to 7:30 every Monday, and it is a class led sort of like a circle. So when you enter the class, I usually have some sort of a activity. I call it waiting activity because I usually wait until about 6:05. Some people are coming a little bit late. Life events happen. I've had 2 classes. For the last 2 classes, I had a little bindi bar, so for the women to come and really just like adorn themselves with a bindi. And it's part of the ritual. It's part of the preparing for the dance.
For someone who wouldn't know what bindi was, can you explain?
Yes, it's a little jewel that I use to place on the place of a third eye. It's not worn for beautifying or as a trend. For me, it is to draw awareness to the third eye as you're preparing for the dance. It's all part of the preparation of your temple, of your body to come dance and to express who you are. So that's the beginning, but every week I explore different themes. This last week we were exploring relationship to the body, and I usually have a mixture of dance and some, depending on how many people show up, some partner exercises. A huge part of this practice is a practice of deep listening. So my partner exercises that I'm creating, some of them I created, some of them I'm using from my course, are to bring inquiry into a partner exercise with deep listening as a tool.
Great.
That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Great. And it's Mondays from 6 to 7 at Instant Karma.
6 to 7:30.
Okay, so if anyone's listening, they can
Sure.
come by and check it out.
Please.
So now that you're here in the desert, have there been any surprises, things that you weren't expecting to happen that have happened, or things that you've experienced that you were like, I wasn't expecting that, I wasn't ready for that, or wow, that's something I need to get used to? Anything?
Sure. So probably the one challenge that I experienced and Ryan and I experienced was finding housing. That was a very stressful process for everybody who lives here. I'm sure they do know there's a lot of Airbnb people, a lot of properties are used for Airbnbs, and so I would say there is a shortage of places that you can just rent. So that was a process. It took us about a month, maybe more, to find a place. And then finally we got lucky because Ryan, through his work, met a wonderful lady who helped us get into a property.
Yeah, it seems it's very word of mouth. And most of the stuff, particularly in Joshua Tree, isn't known, I don't think, that if people are renting it. And I think that's for various reasons. That I overheard someone in a conversation the other day talking about, yeah, we'll never rent our place to long-term renters again. They've ruined the place and everything like that. So that makes it bad for people like you and me who are good stewards of the places where we live. And then there's the Airbnb, whether it's local people buying the property and renting it out on short-term basis, or people that don't live here recognizing the inexpensive property and that they can whip up a rental in no time.
Yeah, there is that. There are different people, different tenants. I have to say that when I was selling my property, that was one of the deciding factors too. I didn't really want, because it's hit and miss. Some people take care of the place and some people don't.
And it's really difficult. I mean, I've had the experience myself of renting a place. I was in North Carolina, and my place was in Jersey that I was renting because I, was thinking about putting it on the market and still hadn't decided, but I needed to go to Charlotte to my finance job.
So
yes, I know
the journey.
I do know the journey. When you came, you said there were some feelings that you dropped into here, that you tapped into, or the magic of the place. Can you put any words to some of those things that came up for you?
Sure. It's wow. I love the vastness of this place. When I was comparing the contrasts, I couldn't really put words onto it, but now, since I've lived here for about a year now, I see that the lack of lines, the lines that you find in the city, really, for me personally, frees the mind to be able to live in that creative life force. So that's one thing, like lack of lines. And the feeling, so it's vastness, vast feeling. It's a feeling of freedom I have here from the spaciousness. I also have this feeling of inner peace that I had not known before. And the last item is that the people here are truly amazing gems. And it reminds me, the community here reminds me of being in Czech Republic. So it's a very close to my heart. I find that people here are very real.
Yes, I would agree.
For who they are, so
authentic.
Yeah. So that's how I would draw the relation to Czech Republic.
Okay. Well, then I think you fit right in, because I believe that you're one of those really genuine, authentic people that are here to do whatever your heart's desire is to share with the community. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming today. Before we go, though, I would like you to choose 4 numbers between 1 and 50. Those answers will be part of the Diary Unlocked episode that goes to the Patreon supporters of the podcast, which I'm super grateful for. So, your numbers, please.
25, 33, 4.
The number 4, you're asking me if there's 4 questions.
Number 4.
Number 4, okay. Somebody catch me listening.
And there are 4 questions. Yeah, number 4 and number 3.
Okay, 3 is very popular, I have to say. I'm going to have to jig these questions around a little bit. Okay, what's your favorite driving or road trip music? What's the last gift you gave someone? Since coming to the desert, what have you been surprised to discover about yourself? And the last question will be, what was your most memorable birthday? So if you would like to hear Petra's answers to those questions, go over to desertladydiaries.com, click on the support page, and check out the Patreon member support option, and you would have access not only to Petra's Diary Unlocked, but all the ones we've done since the beginning of the year. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Pleasure.
If you'd like to hear the Diary Unlocked portion of Petra's episode, it's easy to do. Just go to desertladydiaries.com, click on the support page, and follow the link to Patreon. Once you're signed up, you'll have access to the exclusive content only available to supporters of the podcast through Patreon. This week's shout-out is for local author Robin Maxwell, who was also a guest on the podcast in episode 57. She recently entered the podcast arena along with her podcasting partner Harry Duran of Podcast Junkies. They have created and launched An Alien in Hollywood. The first episode is a conversation with Ron Shusett, who Robin calls a friend and quintessential Hollywood outsider. Ron has written many video games and screenplays. You may be most familiar with Total Recall and Alien. Check out An Alien in Hollywood on Apple Podcasts, and congratulations, Robin. If you don't want to miss the latest episode of Desert Lady Diaries, I invite you to sign up for the weekly newsletter, which will bring the latest episode to your inbox automatically each week. It's super easy to sign up. Just go to desertladydiaries.com and click on Weekly Newsletter. See you back here next week with Jessica Dacey. She's the Director of Communications for Mojave Desert Land Trust. Have a great week, and thanks so much for listening.